How are you, Griff? All right?
Yeah, not too bad. Good to see you all. You okay?
Yeah,
Yeah.
good, mate. Just a few days on, Griff. How do you reflect on what happened on Saturday, sort of on the pitch, but also the experience off it?
Yeah, it was a good old day for the club, really. I think we acknowledged how proud we were Saturday. And yeah, so many different positive things going on and clearly off the field, which was great to see in terms of the Arms Park faithful and put something on there that everyone could be proud of. I think obviously since then the professional coaching instincts kick in again, and Sunday was getting back to the drawing board really in terms of looking at the game, any learnings, but the wash up from the game is really and the stress to go again this week and put things together there with a few bumps and bruises perhaps, but then knowing that when you look at Harlequins in a lot of depth, they're obviously regarded as a fantastic ball playing side, but seeing how good they are at the other things around the scrum line out and the stress to go again then.
How difficult is that to go again? Because last week you had the euphoria, a bit of adrenaline, sort of backs to the wall. This now that's sort of not waned but gone away. You've got the cold light of day, the English champions in their own backyard.
Yeah, that has been our biggest sort of review thing that we did yesterday as staff and players together. We spoke about following up what was a monumental effort, and you look at like the GPS numbers. This the average was far above any other game from this season per position. Let alone for players who'd never got to those levels anyway. So that's an astronomical effort, really, in terms of where the guys are at. And then, yeah, we spoke about, well, what does it look like in terms of backing up? Obviously, we can help in terms of coaches and staff with deloading certain things and trying to not overdo some of the stuff that we want to put together, really. But again, we try and fit that into the big picture of the game we do want to play. We think is the right one about opening the game up. It'll suit what we've got on the field. But yeah, it's about to be smart in how we get to that point, and individually every player doing what they can to recover properly tomorrow as well, and seeing mostly the same group of players go again.
You say sort of mostly the group of the not through yet, but we assume Jacob Eaton might have a ban, so he might be unavailable. Jason Tovey obviously had a heavy knock. Is he around this weekend?
Still waiting, waiting to see the HIA3 today in terms of reaction there. So we're just waiting on a call there. Jacob, we won't contest. I've been advised by Gav they'll follow that process tomorrow or Thursday. So he won't be available, and obviously Yestin and the hooker situation will change. But then within that, then there's obviously a little bit of continuity in terms of the rest of the group.
If Jason Tovey isn't, are we going to be seeing Dan Fish an option at 10, the guy who just keeps coming back?
It's a strong possibility. Yeah, he's been doing that job admirably at Premiership level, and he obviously knows the cohesion and language that exists there and creates some trust. But Thomas Williams is in my ear that he could certainly do a job there. There are some possible fits there. But it's probably another thing to add to the thing that could draw us tighter anyway. I mean, Tovey was brilliant last week. His wife is due to give birth. So there's lots going on there. We're trying to support him through that last week, and he put a good shift in for us last weekend. So, yeah, we would just get on with it either way. I think we're probably just riding that wave anyway in terms of just we lose one, we go with something different.
Can I just ask you about Ray Lilo, Griff, because he obviously had a 3-match ban. 2 of those games were obviously postponed. He wasn't available last weekend. Is he available for you this weekend? Because it's obviously quite a unique situation, what's happened in the last couple of months with him.
Yeah, he is available, Ray, which is a massive boost for all of us. There's something called the World Rugby Coaching Intervention Programme, which Gavin Cooper and Richard Hodges have done a lot of work with, really, in terms of putting through that. So they do sign up, and there's some online learning and things you've got to go through, but he's come through that. So the application was submitted there, and we had authorization that, we took 1 week off because of obviously special circumstances also. And some great work behind the scenes has enabled us to get Ray on the field.
To have somebody of that stature within midfield, and obviously might be enable Josh to go into the back 3 as well if Willis is fit, that must be a big boost for you.
Yeah, it is. Josh, I thought was fantastic at 13 through the working week and bringing almost like a glue to everything that was going on outside, knowing the youngsters around him on the edges, but people inside him. So he did a real good job there. But yeah, having probably a world-class centre to step into that sort of area is a massive boost again, knowing what he can bring going forward and defensively as well, in terms of how him and Willis combine so well.
Just found an injury. Dylan Lewis still unavailable, Griff?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. I came into this and the Scarlets game was the timeline given, and yeah, we've stuck to that, I think, which is probably the fair call.
And final one, next week, back to the day job. Have you enjoyed the last couple of weeks?
I have in the main, yeah, and it's got probably a bit more straightforward as it's gone on. Probably the initial stresses of trying to liaise closely with Gavin Cooper, Di Young from the 10 days prior, really. That was the registrations and dealing with calls with EPCR. That was all a bit niggly and new to me, perhaps, but I've enjoyed, the group in terms of what we tried to do together. And yeah, who wouldn't have enjoyed last Saturday in terms of the rugby itself and being around a special group of players? And, likewise this week. But I'll gladly hand back to Di, really, in terms of the stresses and slings and arrows that go with this.
Hi, Griff. Just to sort of underline the situation, some of the coaches will have come out of quarantine, but the coaching team is going to be the same this weekend?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. No, we've been pretty steadfast from the off there that the other guys thankfully have come back in the early hours, so they're resting up now with families. The group who have come back will be doing some modified, reduced work up in the Vale on Thursday, Friday with obviously the other coaches, which just Tristan Bevan be leading, truth be told, in terms of how that looks for them. But there'll be no coaching crossover at all. Again, it's myself, Richie and TR, with close dialogue on a daily basis with Matt Shedder, Dwayne and Richard alongside Di. But no, there'll be no crossover in terms of on-field. The definitive return to action for all the normality will be Monday.
And are the strength and conditioning people happy that those players, there's enough time to get them ready for Boxing Day?
Yeah, and that's part of, to be fair, Tristan is well across that. That's what the purpose of Thursday, Friday will be in terms of reintegration on field. It's obviously a different venue to where we are here in the Arms Park before we travel. And yeah, at a reduced load then going into next week and looking at probably just building it up slowly but surely, that they'll start 25% reduced load and get to a point where, those players alongside the current group can, do themselves justice against probably a Scarlet side. This hasn't been in a similar sort of area anyway.
And in terms of could they be opposition in training this week? Is that a possibility?
No.
They won't play any part at all.
No. So they'll be training at a separate venue. So I think it's working well in terms of them having time away mentally, but also professionally. I know Tristan and Di are really across what's going to be the key sort of linear approach to getting them back ready for the full week Monday.
And if last week was a task, putting a team together, you've got all the same problems plus another 3 or 4. What's this week going to be like?
Yeah, I mean, last week I think the adrenaline of all knowing what was coming as a home game against European champions was probably, for me, as an easy sell in some ways around the team room and creating the mindsets on the misfits and where we all fit and everything. But to do it again gets motivationally harder, and you've got to look a bit different at it. Especially again from my end, being away from some of the pro stuff, I didn't realise how accomplished Harlequins were at some of the basics, the contact area, and as well as obviously the pace and panache they play at. But we'll use some of that to hopefully to just leave us a little bit in the background in terms of us having to be across certain levels of detail. Defensively as well, with there's a couple of tweaks that we can make there, but use it as an exciting one. Again, this is the English champions, so hopefully the sequel can be better than the original.
And just in terms of the last few weeks, are there going to be things that you're already seeing that actually you could change going forward? You could learn some of the lessons, and you'll have a review at some point. Are the things that you'll be saying, this has shown the coordination of the squad, the coordination of the club, whatever it is, are the things that you've picked up on that, because they're different, could be good going forward?
Yeah, a little bit. I think there's 101 coaching messages that can go into the working week. We've stripped some of them, and we've had some real quality snippets of information from Richard Hodges, Matt Shedder, but no pressure in terms of how and where we've utilised them. And I know probably we've added a little bit more this week, but again, we haven't overburdened the players, and perhaps having no pressure in terms of results, in terms of just coming into it and just trying to create an environment that we can then enjoy, flourish, and put productive rugby on the field. It does give perhaps school of thought to perhaps a couple of things we could do differently, perhaps.
Great, thanks very much.
Thanks, Hamish.
Hi, Griff. Obviously, Jacob Beetham won't be available this weekend, but there's a fullback spot up for grabs next year when Hallam retires. So in terms of a first outing for Jacob, you must have been pretty pleased with how he went.
Yeah, really pleased. I mean, he's a success from the pathway, and again, just in terms of my normal role, he's someone we didn't contract till he was 18 plus, which is a strong message nowadays when people at 16, 17, a lot of people chasing and getting that sense of entitlement. He worked really hard behind the scenes for a lot of time via Cardiff and Vale College, played for Glamorgan Wanderers. Then he had a little bit of exposure Wales 20s, and he's been slowly integrated into what we've done here on a professional basis, academy to seniors. But as I said, he hasn't had it just as an easy sort of path for him. He's had to work every day to try and be better and improve himself, and he's done that. And obviously he's developing physically all the time. He's getting his confidence around communication back through pendulum. He's very well mentored by Dan Fish. So no, we've been really excited by him for quite some time. And yeah, seeing him again around this environment and learning from the likes of Josh Adams and those around him has been really refreshing. And again, you're just proud to see that the fact you think they can flourish, and then the proof's in the pudding when they do so.
Yeah, as you said, he's someone that you've worked with for a while. But what was the facet of the game or the part that pleased you most, when it was put to the test on Saturday at the Arms Park?
Some of his positional sense is excellent, and some of his kicking game is wonderful, and I think is something that's obviously going to lend himself to the pro game anyway. But also knowing that even with the red card, he put more meters on the field than anyone else did. A lot of high-speed meters of that. He was out on his feet 5-10 minutes before half-time, which caused some concern to the others in the coach's box. But he had to get through that, knowing that he'd never come up in with this sort of level of duress and running load previously. And we got through half-time and he went again. And he kept offering himself. On the ref mic, you can hear him talking. And that's been a great thing for me, that, seeing these guys over the last 6 months adapt to Premiership rugby, Theo Cabango, Jacob Beetham, and then communicating so effectively from that to now senior professional rugby against the best in the business is really satisfying, and something they should be pleased about.
Don't often see a young lad with a big boot on him like that either, do you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's always going to endure something. Previously as a coach, you're always looking at 15s who can go 50, 60 meters. And yeah, you can win kick battles, but also with Jacob, sometimes we're developing the subtlety of his kicking game. But also as well, once he got through perhaps the initial nerves, the ability to back himself as well, get on the ball, because he's a rangy runner and he can beat people. But probably more importantly, knowing when and how to make good decisions, he's starting to really show some maturity there.
And as you said, obviously, the red card at the end was a bit of a blot on the copybook. But what was his reaction like after that? How did you find him after that?
Yeah, no, he was fine. I mean, I think Josh Adams obviously spoke kindly and empathetically to him on the way off, and no one's. I mean, we spoke about the surreal sort of hand clap when he's getting off. I think that was a real recognition of the effort he put in on the day. And yeah, for me, it's just enjoying that moment. Is probably because Jacob's pretty sharp around these things, knowing that he's a bit of a worrier. He was thinking about what comes next. Will I miss next week? And unfortunately, pretty quickly, we realised he would. But again, he's good enough to park that. And in his mind, he's thinking about the next thing then and trying to do this again, which is probably the big thing around these guys. They've had a taste of it. How and what they're going to do to try and get back into this group with Di and the senior coaches now.
Brilliant. Cheers, Griff.
Thanks, Ben, mate.
Hi, Griff. Miles here.
Hey, Miles, how's it going?
Yeah, all right. First of all, congratulations. I'm sure all of us on this call who were there and had the pleasure of seeing what happened on Saturday won't forget it in a hurry. It was one of the great days. I'm just wondering whether you will remember it in the same way, though, in terms of how you lived through the experience in the game. Were you looking through your fingers at times? Did you actually manage to enjoy it?
No, I did try and enjoy it. And as I said, it's probably for me, I was, probably walking into the stadium, and my wife dropped me off, and it's probably, I hadn't really thought about it too much up to that point, but then walking into Arms Park, representing, a club I'd grown up watching, all the time with my dad in the 80s, used to come here, and my heroes were Mark Ring, Teddy Holmes, Gareth Davis, and so that kicked in a little bit. But then I just sort of did my team talk, and for me then it was just, I just wanted to enjoy the day, as long as we were okay around set piece. And we were hanging in there. That was fine. I just made a commitment to myself. I just wanted to enjoy the rugby and not overly get bogged down by DuPont having a moment of magic. It was clearly going to come anyway. So I was trying to divorce some of the sort of emotion. And like I said, just buy into, look around the ground and try and savor some of that, as well as you do get drawn into the X's and O's. But probably less so than I've been in the past.
Yeah. And you mentioned DuPont. Obviously, those things were going to happen. Until he was in general, those things were going to happen. But he was so special, and in the end, made quite a difference to the scoreline. You take him out of the match, and it could have been a lot closer. Yeah,
genuinely. I mean, I said after the game to the group, and even more so when I watched the game back, that there were a couple of big moments either way. And obviously, him being the architect of all that was good around what they put on the scoreboard. But we bombed, certainly 4 or 5 tries. There's a couple of, even when we take the lead, we allow them to get a soft one. And then even when we're 27 down, we have a couple of line breaks and don't finish. Yeah, the complexion could have changed a little bit. I don't think we would have come on the scoreboard, but because the class was too evident, too much power there from them. But it was one, probably we also have to say and applaud him. That's, a lot of the crowd, we've enjoyed the Cardiff moments, but also applaud the World Player of the Year as well. That was unbelievable stuff.
Yeah. And one final one from me about sort of throwing forward to this weekend. Are you looking outside the group, considering the bumps and bruises, or are you even allowed to do that in terms of registration now? Or is it going to be essentially the same group that you were working with last week that's going into this weekend?
Yeah, it's the same group, apart from we do have hooker concerns. Evan Yardley, our Cardiff RFC semi-pro hooker, will start. Our other Cardiff RFC hooker, we hope, will be on the bench, but he's carrying a slight hamstring twinge. But we are looking at dispensation for a medical joker that we're allowed to bring in by tomorrow lunchtime, and where myself and Gavin Cooper are well on that. So there will be hopefully 3 hookers in the matchday squads, and with travelling reserves as needed.
Okay, go well, and thanks for your time today. Cheers, Griff.
Thanks, Miles. Thanks again, mate.
Sorry, could I just jump in, Griff? I forgot to ask you before. COVID's obviously rife in terms of in the UK at the moment. Football teams are reporting cases. I just wondered how you were and how serious you were taking that within the group that you're working with this week.
Yeah, we go through the lateral flow process early in the week. We do that. We have our PCR testing on Thursday, and obviously we've advised between now and not seeing the group to when we convene Thursday morning. They have to be really careful in terms of where they are. There can be distractions. We've got a young group, and there's student games and different stuff that they could go and watch, but we've advised otherwise, that they've got to be as carefully manage themselves and the people around them as good as we can be, because we desperately want to get through this round of PCRs this week, and that's easier said than done. Last week, if I'm honest, was a pleasant surprise that we got 40 odd people through that, but again, we've got to do that again another week and go from there, really. Please go on.
Griff, cwpl yn Gymraeg.